Dimitri mentioned this new novel, Follow Me, so I will read a bit from it. Right from smack in the middle, I guess. And it's this is a part that's actually has a different narrator. Most of the book is narrated by Sally, who's the main character, Sally's granddaughter. This part is narrated by Abe Boyle, who's the father of Sally. He's writing to her, the father of the young Sally. He's writing to her to explain why he ran away 30 years ago and abandoned her mother when her mother was pregnant with the young Sally, the second Sally. He's just a little word of warning here. He's speaking into a tape recorder, and he's a bit of a stutterer. So when he stutters, I'll stutter, even though I stutter anyway. So you'll never know whether it's me stuttering or Abe stuttering. He's a science teacher, and he goes off on some tangents now and then. So I hope you'll go with him when he does that. Okay, so I'm going to start at a place that I thought this was appropriate for this festival. That I have been told a number of times, and I guess any craft book on fiction tells you, never start with a dream, right? So what am I going to do? I'm going to start with a dream. I thought it would be appropriate. Dear Sally, I had a dream last night. I dreamed of you. I dreamed I saw you crossing a hotel lobby. You were pulling a suitcase, and I asked if I could come along on your trip with you, wherever you were heading. You didn't know me from Adam, but you said, sure, why not, come along. But then the lobby was suddenly full of people milling around, and you disappeared in the crowd. I couldn't find you anywhere. I woke up feeling lost. You know, it makes me think of the common advice that following a stream downhill will eventually lead you back to civilization. Yeah, you can follow the stream through marshlands and forests. You can batter your way through alder and willow, and then, surprise, the flow might very well end in an isolated pond, and you're still lost. You're lost worse than ever. Well, that dream last night, it was only a dream. I'm in between classes right now. I'd better get ready, so you'll find a pause in the tape. I'll be back later in the day. Sally, I was telling you about my dream, and before that about your mother. The way life changes. Think about it. Think about that feeling on a roller coaster when you're barely moving at the top of the rise and then you surge toward the bottom of the downgrade. That pit in your stomach, you don't feel it because your speed is so fast, but because your speed is changing so fast. You're at the age where life changes fast. It's thrilling, isn't it? You don't have time to worry about the future. You just go and go, chugging up to the top of the hill. I used to love that roller coaster there by the lake. You must have ridden on the rabbit, the jackrabbit, if it's still in operation. No, it might not be. It was a rickety wooden thing when I was young, and that was 30 years ago. More than 30 years. I remember the first time I rode on it. I was with friends. There were 5 of us, and I ended up being the odd one out. So instead of sitting with one of my buddies, I had to sit with an old lady. My God, a very old lady. She must have been 90, and she said she had been riding the rabbit once a year, every year, ever since its first year in operation. That first year, a fireman stood up in a seat and was killed when the train went through the tunnel. The old lady told me about that. I remember just as our train started to move, she told me about the fireman getting killed on the rabbit. And then she said, I'll never forget, she said, I hope you don't mind if I scream. And boy, did she scream. We both screamed. Ha! The next time I rode on the rabbit was with your mother that same summer, the summer of 1974. I was going to tell you about meeting your mother. I met her that summer at Jeremiah's. Ask her if she remembers meeting me. Don't tell her I told you to, but go ahead and ask her. See if she remembers. Maybe she won't want to remember. Does she ever talk about me? God, she was gorgeous, with her blue eyes beneath the domes of those wide lids, and her hair was the early 70s, and she had a long hair. She wore it with the front ends pulled back and held in a clip. She was nearly as tall as me. I'm 5'9". She must be close to that, I think. What can I tell you about your mother that you don't already know? I wonder if you find her as hard to describe as I do. Well, it's no secret. She was a real beauty with those silky curls, red curls, and her blue eyes always open so wide as if she were trying to see everything at once. I used to like to watch her watching others. She paid attention. She looked at the world with interest, with wonder. That's a better word. With wonder and curiosity. And when she found a worthwhile cause, she'd throw herself into it. Don't get me wrong. She wasn't a saint. She had her own streak of wildness. Yeah, she liked a good thrill. She liked to ride on the jackrabbit. She had a quick temper, it's true, but she was just as quick to laugh. Does it ring true to you if I say of your mother that she seemed to experience life with more intensity than most? Honestly, the only time I remember seeing her bored was once in front of the TV during a sportscast of a golf tournament. She had no patience for golf. I remember she balled up her sock and threw it at the TV, at the sportscaster. And I swear that guy looked surprised when the sock bounced off the screen, like he could feel it. He could feel the sock hitting him in the face. We laughed so hard we couldn't stop laughing. When she laughed, I remember she used to thrust out her tongue. She'd squeeze the tip of her tongue between her lips. We spent a lot of time laughing together, your mother and me. I can tell you it felt good to be with her. But how to describe what good means? I've never felt it before and never since. Your mother was the love of my life. Maybe I shouldn't admit that. I had a decent marriage, more than decent. I loved Donna. It was a different kind of love, but I loved her. And I have 2 wonderful daughters from that marriage. I wouldn't trade them for the world. Your mother, though, she came into my life at a time when I expected nothing. I'd lost so much by then. My father, my brother, and that spring my mother got sick. I didn't realize how sick she was. I think she was worn down, worn out. She told me she had the flu. When I talked to her on the phone, she'd start coughing. Sometimes she couldn't talk through her coughing and would have to call me back. When I saw her in May, she looked okay. She was still working, but she had that cough. And then in July, I got a call from her friend who told me she was in the hospital. Your mother came with me to visit her. Your mother, Penelope Bliss. I don't know how I would have gotten through that summer without her. I don't know how I've managed without her for 30 years, more than 30 years. Ask her, will you, if she ever thinks about me. Don't tell her why you're wondering. Is she still so angry with me that she would refuse to let me speak directly to her? I wouldn't blame her. No, I wouldn't blame her. Well, I'll stop here. There's more to say, of course, but I'm late for an appointment. I'll be back soon. Dear Sally, here I am. What a day. Oh, it's not worth going into. Suffice it to say that it took a bad turn when I spilled my coffee in the car on the way to school. From then on, everything that could go wrong did go wrong. When the bulb on the overhead projector popped, I knew it was time to give up. Why are we still stuck with projectors in the school? I have friends teaching in the town next door of smart boards in their classrooms. How about that? And then I had to go and ask one of my favorite questions. I like to ask my students to explain why spiders don't get stuck in their own webs. You know what one said? One boy, he said, they don't get stuck because God doesn't let them get stuck. Well, okay, let's pack up our books and go home. There's nothing to learn. Everything is the way God made it. So what's the point of scientific inquiry? What's the point of this question? Of all questions, I tell you, there's a large portion of the population of this country who believe a question is in its very nature Satan's work. Don't get me going. So the spider, what he does, do you know what he does? He spins his original web of dry threads, threads that aren't sticky, and then when he's almost finished, he weaves in a gummy silk, and it's a silk that catches the insects